everyone, and welcome to an evening of Thriver Spirit and Song with our special guest, Meredith Baxter. I'm Katie Meredith Marino, President of Connecticut Alive, the Connecticut Alliance for Victims of Violence and their families. Tonight, Meredith offers us an inspiring story of courage, hope, self-acceptance, and happiness.
What I want to do is, I'm going to bring some people up, and I want to see if we can articulate for you some of the ways that the women who I've worked with actually have articulated to me their journey.
Good evening. I had done a lot of work before I had gone to Susan's workshop. I had attempted to make the best of a not-so-good situation, and I was dressing up my existence, trying desperately not to make decisions that were going to victimize me again. I knew I was no longer a victim because I had become a survivor. I spent years as a survivor. I got some help and I had began walking towards a better life, but I always was wearing the survivor armor. It defined who I was. The armor was heavy and always part of my life's equation. I didn't know how to, when I went to the workshop, I didn't know what to expect. Luckily, it wasn't costing me any money because I wouldn't have been able to afford to have gone at that point. My expectations were of an open forum where we would all share our stories and sort of relive our experiences with Susan's support. And that is not what she had us do. Luckily, what she asked me to do was to remove my survivor armor. I was asked to consider a part of me untouched by the abuse. And what happened next was truly amazing.
Hello. Hello. The piece that I wrote is, Dear Gigi, I'm the happy person inside of you, and I would like to tell you something. You have made me so proud. The journey that you have traveled has made you the thriver that you are today. The place that you left behind, where you were so afraid of, is gone forever. There will be no more ridicule, abuse, hurt, control, or self-doubt. Know that you are a strong and powerful woman. You are no longer afraid to say no. You will not tolerate being abused. You do not need negative energy in your life. You are happy, fulfilled, and most importantly, loved. You can now live your life to accomplish all that you want to be. You are loved, you are appreciated, and you are free. Thank you.
I had asked myself if the survivor part of me could put the abuse aside and motivate me to search for my true passions. I knew this part of me, not well, but I did believe that there was a center core that had not been disturbed. Susan encouraged me to invite that part out and talk a while, dream a while, and to basically mourn our years of separation. She encouraged us to tell on ourselves, not the typical story about how screwed up everything was, but to talk about how wonderful we were, how clever, how smart. At first this felt really strange, and then it felt like no other outfit, no other thought, no other experience. This is the magic. It comes from removing the armor of tragedy, or abuse, or distorted perceptions. I didn't understand what thriving meant at first, but working with Susan helped me to make important decisions I was avoiding. I got help for depression, I joined a gym, I stopped smoking, and I eventually bought a house. I allowed myself to thrive, and this is my personal gift that ends the bondage of surviving. I am bigger than my former story. The real me knows this to be true, and Susan helped me find that. It motivates me to forgive myself, and then I forgive those who had abused me, and I excuse myself and my children from the survivor lifestyle for another lifestyle that is more rewarding, more authentic, and certainly more satisfying. So this is my journey. Today, I am living a life I was born to live. Thank you.
To my abuser, and to every abuser, past, present, and future, I am a woman of power. I am a woman who has been empowered, and I have something to say to you. You thought you could tear me down piece by piece, isolate me, and break my spirit. You thought you could silence my voice and seed self-doubt. But the tree that bends and weathers heavy storms grows deeper roots, and bones that break men stronger. And so too does a woman beaten down and oppressed grow strength and resolve beyond your comprehension, a spirit beyond your grasp, a voice that cannot be silenced, and a zest for life you cannot touch. She is beyond your control, beyond your reproach, and she does it through the unity, strength, and tenacity of all the women who have suffered in silence with her. We are neither suffering nor silent any longer. We have a voice, and it is clear and strong. We have a goal and the unwavering resolve to achieve it. We will be heard. We will make changes. We will heal the damage you have caused. We will replace your words of hate with love, your lies with the truth, and your ridicule with affirmations. We will do this with grace and poise, as a coalition of sisters united in a common front. We are here to tell you, we have had enough. We will put an end to your reign of terror, one woman at a time. We will speak out. We will make people listen. We will make a difference. Sincerely, Jenny.
Thriver is a happy, self-confident, productive individual who believes she has a prosperous life ahead of her. She believes in herself and the future so much that she will not go back to an abusive relationship. She's not stuck in her anger or need for revenge. Living well is her best revenge.
I am a woman of power who has made a positive impact on the world. Yes, you see, through my own healing, wellness, and creativity, I am a woman of power who has integrity and always believe in doing the right thing. Even when it is challenging, it exposes the true character in me when no one sees me but God. I am a woman of power who has embarked upon this earth to make a difference in other women's lives, to inspire them to achieve their highest level of humanity and cultivate the world with love. You see, today I celebrate my life by being true to myself and being open to others and being filled with positive energy. This transformation has brought out the best in me, taught me self-love, and like a flower bud, allow me to be a beautiful rose. Today, I celebrate my life. Oh yes, because you see, it resembles the ever-changing 4 seasons, fall to winter, winter to spring, and then spring to summer. Secure that I can go forward with confidence and without fear of anything. Today, I celebrate Sophia because I am a woman of power.
All right, need I say any more? I want to introduce Vanessa for the next part of the program. Vanessa Stevens, singer-songwriter. Vanessa came into my second workshop. We have produced these events together. She has made an amazing transformation, and she has an amazing presentation, some songs to sing for you tonight, and then we'll keep on moving. Thanks so much.
So tonight, I'm going to premiere for you our very first music video. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it. I didn't know Maggie personally, and the video is for Maggie's song. But she became a legend to me through the workshops, through Susan's My Avenging Angel workshops. Maggie defied the stereotypes of what an abused woman looks like. And through Susan, I feel I've gotten to know Maggie's spirit very well. And every year, when Maggie's family celebrates what would have been Maggie's birthday, which is coincidentally Susan's birthday, August of 23rd, I feel the need to give back. That's what we artists do, right? We give back. So one year it was a poem, and another year it was a song. And then I said, you know what? I'm gonna do a video. It was a couple years later but here we go. This is the video for Maggie's song. I hope you enjoy it.
Cold October morning, your name made the news. The news shook the campus of Kalamazoo. Time stood still. Many stood in silence, minds were numb and confused, shocked at what anger and violence could do. Nobody knew. Had no idea that your life would end. You were only trying to be a friend, a friend. You were not given the chance to be everything you wanted in life. You took your chance on your dreams, never saw those dreams take flight. Life ended suddenly, and you left a legacy. Oh Maggie, never any warning from his dark and despair. He called on you, Maggie, knowing that you had to care. He brought you there. Shots that rang out, it was some kind of fight. Your life was taken that horrible night. Who do we blame when love turns to hate? And how do we stop it before it's too late? It's not too late. You were not given the chance to be everything you wanted in life. You took your chance on your dreams, never saw those dreams take flight. Life ended suddenly, you left your legacy. Oh Maggie, oh Maggie. Grieve not, no speak of me, don't hold back your tears, but laugh and talk of me as though I were still here. I was still here.
Want to stand here today and exist to tell you that if I can do it, anybody can. And so I'm happily married today to another musician. I guess I just attracted musicians. Yeah. And he's here and he's gonna play this song with me. And this is called Something to Believe In. also known as the Cinderella song. I hope you enjoy it. Kevin Lewis. She came to me one night as I lay among the ashes, my dreams fading like the flames that keep me warm. She threw a log onto the fire, then I saw sparks and flashes. Sometimes I wish just like that my life would transform. And fairy godmother said, girl, I can see you're depressed. You deserve to go to the ball. Now help me pick out your dress. And then she turned the mirror to me, and I saw my true beauty. You don't need something to believe in, something to dream of. She believes in transformations, and I believe in love. She says, every woman has a song, happy ever after will come along. Something to believe in, this is Cinderella's song. I had a good time at the ball, and I feel good inside. Got my strength and all, something I didn't plan. And I've learned the prince does exist, and true love won't hide. She picked up her magic wand, nodded and took my hand. And fairy godmother said, girl, do you still feel depressed? You deserve to have it all, just believe in the rest. And then she handed me the wand, and she said, wave it whenever you want. Real life is not a fairy tale, make it up, make believe. Fairy godmother's magic spell, so when I'm old enough to see, she's guiding me. We make life my own, and I grow, watch me grow. Oh, we all need something to believe in, something to dream of. And she believes in transformations, and I believe in love, sweet love. And she says, every woman has a song, happy ever after will come along. Something to believe in, this is Cinderella's song. Something to believe in, this is Cinderella's song. Something to believe in, this could be your song. When I was young, I didn't feel a connection. I wasn't wise to the ways. My mind and body weren't under your radar. Sweet life was all that I played. Skip, skip, living on the street, burned by the heat. Skipping to the beat. Skip, skip, living on the street, burned by
the heat, skipping to the beat. Skip, skip, living on the street, burned by the heat, skipping to the beat. Skip, skip, living on the street, burned by the heat, skipping to the beat. Step parents drinking, drugged, and gave me the business, and I had to find my way. I thank them for all of the pain that I suffered. If I could find them today. Skip, skip, living on the street, burned by the heat, skipping to the beat. Skip, skip, living on the street, burned by the heat, skipping to the beat. Skip, skip, living on the street, burned by the heat, skipping to the beat. Skip, skip, living on the street, burned by the heat, skipping to the beat. Oh, on and on, hey, on and on. My daddy told me time marches on. Oh, on and on, hey, on and on. That's right, he told me time marches on. He was right. My baby's learning fast from way too many faces, and she's gotta find her way. And I give her all I got, and I bless her with the freedom. And then I lay down and pray, and I say, skip, skip, living on the street, burned by the heat, skipping to the beat. Skip, skip, living on the street, burned by the heat, skipping to the beat. Skip, skip, living on the street, burned by the heat, skipping to the beat. Skip, skip, living on the street, burned by the heat, skipping to the beat. When I was young, I didn't feel a connection. I wasn't wise to the ways.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, Rob, for being here too. Is there any way I could get some guitar in the monitor? That'd be awesome. A little more because I'm picking, and probably a little more in the house because I'm picking. Congratulations, Thrivers, for getting to where you are today. It's not an easy road, and thank goodness that we have support and friends and understanding, compassion. So important. This is called This Is Me. And there was quite a journey to get to this song. I think the main message in this song for me, the moment of clarity, was when I realized that to release myself from the prison that was forming around me in the situation I was in was a moment when I realized that I could find peace in my own mind. And that's when I felt free. Time has come to have some fun. I'm tired of being controlled. In the sun now, watch me run. See my wings unfold. This is me, wild and carefree, dancing in the rain, flying higher to the sky and soaring down again. Here's some wisdom I found, my friend. It's called living well is the best revenge. It starts with the courage and the fight to survive. It ends with the glory of living to thrive. Tried to flay the cage on me, but you made it all a game. Now this body has been set free from wallow in your shame. Letting go has been so slow, it's taken too much time. Now I know how this must go, and freedom's in my mind. Here's some wisdom I found, my friend. It's called living well is the best revenge. It starts with the courage and the fight to survive. It ends with the glory of living to thrive. La-di-di-di-di-di-di. Time has come to have some fun. I'm tired of being controlled. In the sun now, watch me run. See my wings unfold. This is me, wild and carefree. I'm dancing in the rain, flying high up to the sky and soaring down again. Living well is the best revenge. It starts with the courage and the fight to survive. It ends with the glory of living to thrive. Oh, this is me. Yeah. Well, this is me. Hey, look at me. I'm wild and carefree.
I want to bring, for all of you, this is my gift to you. I wanted to bring Meredith in to talk to us, so here she is, Meredith Baxter.
Well, thank you all so much. I just have to start out saying I'm very moved to be in the company that has been on the stage already. I'm very touched by the stories and the songs. I'm so happy to meet new friends and family. Thank you. I'm really glad to be here this evening. I want to thank CT Alive and Susan O'Million for inviting me. I'm thrilled to be part of the third Thriver Tour, the Evening of Spirit and Song. So how many of you have been here before? Oh, okay, lots of repeat supporters. This is great. This is my first time. I didn't get invited to the others. Fun funds raised today will be utilized to provide workshop retreats and follow-up programs to those who've participated in the Thriver course. And this is quite a program. I have great respect for the work that is done here, the uncovering, discovering, and discarding that is so integral to the healing process. I was reading Susan's Thriver workbook that she was kind enough to send me, referring to she was referring to some women who had come through her workshops, and she wrote about her admiration for their courage and persistence and refusal to let what happened to them, the violence and abuse that they'd experienced, define who they were. Now that particularly struck me because I had defined myself by my childhood experiences. And I'm still struggling with it in some ways. And I'll be talking a bit tonight about my life and my experience with domestic abuse. And although there are elements here of a sad story, what I want to leave you with is hope for change. You know, I want to avoid the sensational. I'm going to try to stay so focused on the feelings that I experienced, the belief system that I developed based on the abandonment and rejection I experienced as a child, a belief system that led me into similar interactions in my marriages. Now, in the telling, I'm lumping husbands into husband, as they should be. Marriages into marriage. It doesn't matter what happened, when, or with whom. Now, I got to make a sweeping qualification here. I'm not an expert in anything. You know, I only share on my experience, strength, and hope. That's really all I have. I'll give you a little bit of background information. I was raised in Hollywood, California, the show business capital of the world. My mother was an actress. My father was in live radio and TV. My first stepfather was an agent. My second stepfather was a comedy writer, producer. I graduated from Hollywood High. So it wasn't my fault, you know, I kind of just fell into the family business and stayed there for over 40 years. I got married very young, and I have 5 adult children and 3 darling grandchildren who call me Grammy, as in the award. So when I was a little girl growing up, it was required that my 2 older brothers and I be neither seen nor heard. I believe that my mother was trying to protect her acting career, thinking that she would appear younger if her children were not seen. So no one in her business knew, and many of her friends didn't even know that she had children. There were no family photos taken of us, ever. Nothing to betray our existence. My parents divorced when I was very little. My father was a mere presence in my life. A series of housekeepers substituted for my mother, who we had to call Whitney, which was her stage name. No mom, no mommy. No, nothing to identify her as our mother. Boundaries were sketchy, name-calling was rampant, and sexual innuendo with my first stepfather was frequent and insidious. No one took the time to hear how we felt. Our anger and tears were discounted, belittled, or just ignored. Now, under those conditions, I learned to keep an even lower profile than was required, and I learned that my feelings and my needs irritated them. So somewhere along the line, I decided it was easier to just not feel or want anything. Consequently, my feelings were not available to me, and I never knew how I felt about anything for decades. I had no voice. I had no confidence. I felt I didn't matter. I didn't connect well with others. I was shy, lonely, no self-esteem. And because of the emotional abuse, of neglect and rejection, I interpreted this to mean that I was neither loved nor lovable. Right there is the belief system that I developed based solely on the things I experienced as a child. And every relationship, every conversation, every thought or desire was viewed and experienced through the murky lens of this belief system. So I'd concluded all of this at a time I was 5. Now this belief system, my core conviction, dictated the entire trajectory of my life. So this is how abuse when you're a child can leave you ripe for more abuse down the road. Now as I got older, believe me, I was not looking to recreate the same family feeling that I'd grown up with. But when I met a man who treated me the way I'd been treated, was verbally and physically cruel to my 2 younger children as well, was something in me recognized and understood that dynamic. I was drawn to the familiar. Okay, I didn't like that we were getting hit. I didn't like the shaming and the name calling, but on some subconscious level, I knew what my role was within that relationship, and I accepted it because I'd grown up with it. You know, it fit somehow into my subconscious belief system. And that's the continuation of the pattern right there. That's how it's passed on generation to generation. So I had 3 more children during that marriage, and more than halfway through the marriage, the nanny for my twins quit. She'd lived in our house for over 2 years, and she'd seen everything that went on there. Just before she left, she gave me a book. It's called The Men Who Hate Women and the Women Who Love Them. I'm seeing some nods. Now, I can't tell you whether it was a good book or not, because it scared me to pieces. The women in the book sounded like me, and the men sounded like my husband. I felt that alarm of recognition. I just read a few pages and I threw it away. You know, it threatened my denial. I was trying to not know what I knew. You know, I couldn't acknowledge that I was in an abusive marriage because that would require some kind of action on my part, and I was too afraid. It was easier to just kind of wave it off as oh, it's a tough marriage, you know, it's because I wasn't ready. I had to wait 3 more years. Now, I'd started drinking fairly early in my marriage. I found it was a useful tool, something to help me get through an evening. And I eventually started drinking earlier and alcoholically, drinking to dull the pain, pretending it wasn't happening, whatever it was. I cooked drunk, I worked drunk, I drove drunk, with and without my children. Alcohol was what made my existence bearable. My husband struggled with anger and envy, and acting out on his family seemed to be his way of dealing with it. The slapping, choking, pulling hair, which is why I stopped wearing a ponytail. You know, that stuff didn't have to happen very often because, I mean, it doesn't have to. You know, we get it. That violence card could be played at any time. Just a fast action in my direction, and it was like, okay, I got it. But even more than that, it was a constant stream of insults, name-calling, vilification, that left the deepest scars. The effect of being on the receiving end of verbal abuse must not be minimized. I remember reading at one point that even women normally of strong fiber and a great sense of self-worth can be ground to dust by the corrosive effect of constant, vitriolic, demeaning, belittling attacks. For me, the words cut much deeper than the slaps. So I'd go back and forth on what I'd allow myself to concede. I mean, I thought a real victim of domestic violence might have to be hospitalized. Okay, now, I did have to go to the hospital for stitches for getting hit over the eye, but I didn't have to stay. You know, so maybe it wasn't so bad. You know, I thought real violence was something I'd see on TV. It was one of the parts I wanted to play. I was a secret keeper. I was warned that what went on in our house stayed in our house. So I told no one. We don't tell anyone. I didn't tell my brothers, my parents. No one on Family Ties knew until the very end. I was too ashamed. I will tell you that being a well-known person and seemingly independent and successful in the career of my own choice was no defense against the treatment at my house. And it couldn't touch the shameful feelings that just engulfed me every day. Now, after 17 years together, I did finally get out, and I got sober in a 12-step program. Now, I didn't do all that pesky self-examination stuff they want you to do. No, I mean, really. I mean, they wanted me to figure out what my part in all of that was. But see, I hadn't done anything wrong. Everything had been done wrong to me all my life. So for the next 4 years, I was very busy being angry and sorry for myself, blaming others for the life I had led. I was physically sober, but not emotionally. Consequently, I learned nothing about myself or why my life was so miserable. I just thought I'd picked badly. So I was doomed to repeat the pattern, which I did. This time, I had a brief marriage to a guy who I knew was a liar, a sex addict, a drug addict, and he had his eye on my bank account. But you know, he didn't hit me. So I thought it was a good choice. That marriage ended in flames, as it only could. And not until then, when I thought I was going to lose my mind from the destructive choices that I'd been making, only then did I go into therapy and recommit myself to the 12-step program and do what they suggested and let the program save my life. Now, women are told that in many abusive situations, we cannot control it. We are not to blame. Now, to a degree, I agree. However, I believe that there is a grave danger if I hold on to the idea that being a victim with no responsibility. I do not have the dubious luxury of simply blaming the husband. I had to get over thinking that someone had to pay for my pain. As I demonstrated, stay a victim, repeat the pattern. I didn't want to go find one more abuser. And I worried about passing this pattern on to my children. So even if my part was only 1/100th of 1%, and believe me, it was so much more, I had to find out that part and look at it. His behavior was none of my business. My part was my behavior, and that was totally my responsibility. So there were questions I had to ask myself. But not to blame myself, not to make me wrong, but to let go of this need to be right and to discover my thinking. I mean, why was I there in the first place? What was I pretending not to see? I mean, I knew everything I needed to know to not be there. I knew it all before I said I do. What was I telling myself that allowed me to stay? Why didn't I speak up? Why didn't I intervene for my children? Why was I afraid to leave? Well, I'll tell you why, even knowing it was going to be a horrible marriage, why I said I do. Now, my inner story was that his contempt for me validated the way I saw myself. You know, he discounted me the same way I felt discounted by my mother. I thought he was smarter than I was. I thought he was fearless and confident, as I was not. You know, I thought he could be decisive, and I could not. I thought he was right. I assigned him all these attributes that he did not have so that I didn't have to expose my own inadequacies. I gave him the reins to my life, which he took up, and I stayed because I was afraid to live my life on my own. Well, that was a huge piece of ugly that I had to look at. But that was part of my part, and I had to claim it. I was no victim. I went in willingly, albeit reluctantly. So I had to acknowledge the belief system that I had built and to see how it had led me into these damaging relationships, or I would continue to have a problem-saturated life. I had to dismantle the belief system and decide to take my rightful place in my own life. I wanted to have an honest, open, loving, safe relationship, which I have today with a beautiful woman. Go figure. So I did that self-evaluation around my frightful relationships and my alcoholism. And it wasn't always pretty, and it's taken a long time to let go of my old thinking. But I feel lighter. I feel unburdened. I don't have any secrets from you, but even better than that, I don't have any secrets from me. And not everyone gets to get out of damaging relationships safely, you know, as many of you can attest. Circumstances differ for so many of us. The only thing we can guarantee is that we don't have to go back. We don't have to repeat that pattern. We get to create alternative stories for ourselves, stories ripe with promise. And you will find as you come out the other side of this that no matter how far down you think you have gone, you'll see how you can be of service to those that follow you by sharing your experiences, your strength, and your wisdom. So I would leave you with, let go of your secrets. Look at the stories you've told yourself. Be rigorously truthful as you look at your thinking. Seek the counsel of those who have preceded you. Become willing to thrive. Thanks for having me.
Cold October morning, your name made the news, and you shook the campus of Kalamazoo. Time stood still. despair.